Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversation in Horror, the podcast. I'm your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the owner operator of Something Wicked Entertainment, and I want to welcome you to our program today. Our program is one in which I take an individual horror film from many different decades or time periods, and subgenres, and I kind of bring on a special guest to help me critique, analyze, and generally talk about that particular film. Now, that being said, we are kind of doing something special this month. As we are focusing on Stephen King adaptations, so to speak. And this is the second year we are doing this. So we're bringing this back because they seemed to be very popular last year. And if it's popular again, we hope to bring this back every year because there's no end to movies based on Stephen King's novels and short stories. And so the film that we're going to talk about today is a made-for-TV movie that came out in 1991. That is Sometimes They Come Back. And to talk about this film, I brought on Mr. Thomas Tinarello. Hopefully, he'll have some insight and some great things to say. Thank you, Thomas, for joining us on this program today.
Thank you, Mr. Kevin L. Powers, and thank you for having me come back on the show.
Of course. Sometimes you may come back for more.
Oh, gosh, we'll get into that. This is probably the most unlikely franchise of all Stephen King stuff in the history of Stephen King stuff. There are three of these movies.
There's three of these movies, and based on a short story that was pretty short to begin with, which is interesting. I wish I had reread the short story because I could have before.
Don't worry, Kevin. I did, and I have notes.
So I think last time I reread the short story was right before the second one came out. I did not rewatch it when the third one came out because I didn't watch the third one when it came out. I watched that years later.
You know what's funny, Kevin? The third one is actually the only one I really want to see now because it looks so bonkers and so completely. Kevin's laughing his butt off right now, ladies and gentlemen, because you can't hear him because of Zoom. But like, it looks so bonkers and so completely removed from anything Mr. Stephen King ever put to paper that it looks amazing. It looks like The Thing in an ice lake in Canada with demons, maybe, question mark? I'm not sure. I watched the trailer and I still don't understand what's going on in it.
I think I've seen the movie twice and I barely understand what's going on. But I recently bought that one on DVD because I was looking to have all three of them, and they're pretty fucking out of print. To be honest with you, they're pretty hard to find.
So, well, maybe we'll make a surge in popularity for these movies, and maybe Vinegar Syndrome will come out with a trilogy box set. Hey, Vinegar Syndrome, you're listening? We will demand the Sometimes They Come Back saga, or not, maybe.
All right. So, now we're getting started with this already. I do have to ask you. First question is always kind of this question: is when did you see this film for the first time, and what were kind of generally your impressions of it?
Well, that's a tricky question, Kevin, because this is one of those movies that is kind of it was a cable stalwart. In fact, I could swear this was a made-for-Showtime TV movie, because we used to have Showtime back in the day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not even sure they exist anymore as a cable network.
I don't think so either. I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah, but I remember at least watching the trailer for this on USA, maybe. And then I would probably watched it later on Showtime. I'm not sure. And even when I was watching like parts of it, I would probably only watch it because literally there would be nothing else on. And it did kind of have a sort of like Goosebumps for grown-ups type vibe going on to it. But then as I would watch it, mind you, I'm like 14 years old when this is happening. It became very clear to me this is such a boomer nightmare that it was unappealing to me. So I did not watch the whole thing. Come on, this is really about killer ghost greasers from the 50s come back to terrorize the 90s. Although it's kind of weird because the book actually is set in the 70s, which would make sense. Because during the 70s, there was a huge wave of nostalgia for the 50s, which climaxed with Grease, the show and the movie. So it would make sense that Stephen King would take something that people were loving and turn to something horrifying. Because because that's what he does.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that's pretty much. I didn't actually watch this whole daggum thing until I was forced to for this podcast. So thank you for that,
Really?
Kevin. Yeah,
Okay.
I did not know how it ended, and when it was done, I was like, yeah, I need to read that short story. I need to, because it's got to be better. And you know what? It totally is.
So I'm going to clarify one thing. It was not originally for Showtime. I'm not even sure if it actually played on Showtime.
That
Because
was a guess.
so I saw this originally when it came on television. So I had in the early '90s, late '80s, early '90s. You know, we were all still VHS kids. And I used to go through the TV guide, and mark down every movie I wanted to record. And so, you know, you could program your VHS player to record. It was very chaotic back in the day, record movies. And so, me and my mother, since my mother was a huge Stephen King fan, that's how I remember this, would catch every Stephen King adaptation that came on television. I had to look it up to see which station it aired on originally, but it did air on CBS originally. And then, from there, I saw it when it originally came out. Now, back in the early '90s, we got a lot of made-for-TV movies based on Stephen King. Between it, The Stand, sometimes they come back. We got so many of them; it was kind of ridiculous. And so they were all like these big events for probably CBS. I would not be surprised if I looked back and most of these were made by CBS or aired on CBS, because there was almost like a yearly ritual with a new one. The Langoliers, they were like Tommy Knockers. It was like a yearly. Everyone they would do adaptation of a Stephen King theme, and so I love this one mostly because I knew who Tim Matheson was. I actually really, and I still, when I rewatched it for the podcast, I still enjoy Tim Matheson for this film. But the cracks of a TV movie do show up really well in this movie.
Well, that's a question, though. I'm not sure if this was originally meant to be a TV movie, because according to IMDb, this was shot with the intention of being theatrically released.
It does go well. If you watch it the way it was, it does seem like there are television breaks in it. But you are right; it did go theatrical in other countries. It did not go theatrical here.
Yeah, it's weird. It feels like it's trying to skirt the line too. Like, it's the way it's shot and the way it's acted, and definitely the way it's written, feels TV to me.
It does.
But there's some sequences in this that are like, there's no way you would get away with that. The TV in the '90s, and we'll get to it, you know. But like, there's some special effects sequences that look like, especially one kill in particular, which was probably the highlight for me. The Chips kill specifically, I'm thinking of. I'm not sure they would have been able to get away with that. So I don't. In fact, I'd like to see how they handled that on network TV back in the day, because like they cut that boy to pieces and throws pieces out the window.
You know what? I don't recall the exact television version. I would have to go, and everyone listening, I still have some of those VHSs with those recorded programs on. I would have to go back and look at that stuff. It's in cold storage, because I watched the DVD version so often that some of those lines kind of blur. Like I don't remember everything that was or wasn't in the Stephen King's Golden Years series, but they changed a lot of it when they put it on DVD.
Oh, well, I forgot about that thing existing.
Yeah, that's the one I noticed the most. There is a huge difference between the aired version on television and the one that they eventually put out on DVD. There was a lot of things different, including the ending, because the series did not end that way when it aired, because they were hoping they'd get another season. But the way it ends on the DVD, that's the end. They created an ending specifically for that. So I kind of wouldn't be surprised, but the sequels to this were definitely straight to video, from my understanding. They were. I don't think either one of them aired on network TV before going to straight to video. I think they were just specifically for straight to video or like a cable service, because this one, in my opinion, only has those couple of moments where there's some real horror to it peppered in. And those are the moments in this film that don't really make sense, like when we see the main greaser Lawson as an undead zombie that doesn't really make sense when he just shows up as an undead zombie where no one else does. Really, very, very, very end stuff like
I mean,
that.
there's a good jump scare in there that actually works for me. Yeah,
You get the sense that they may have added that in for the theatrical version to make it more theatrical. Like that's things like that are what I like. I wish I remembered from when I saw this on television to see if there is a difference between the television version and the one that eventually went theatrical, because it went theatrical everywhere else. It went theatrical everywhere else. I had to look that up because I didn't realize that until recently. I was like, oh wow, and that could be why the other two went straight to video, is because they probably made some fucking money at the theater for this movie. um, I don't know those.
They probably made some coin they probably made some coin in the UK and the Netherlands. It's probably what they were going for.
Well, they also changed it. Like they changed from what I was reading. They changed the when it originally aired, it was just called "Sometimes They Come Back," but then eventually it changed to Stephen King's "Sometimes They Come Back." And I can guarantee you that the theatrical release put his name on there to get people in the seats.
Oh, they didn't plaster his name on anything.
Yeah, they did. They used to plaster his name on anything and to get people in the seats at the theater. I know because I saw Graveyard Shift and everything else that was put out there, Mangler and shit. So yeah.
Well, that's why they tried. That's why he sued the guys who made Lawnmower Man. They were trying to make it Stephen King's Lawnmower Man, but that movie had absolutely nothing to do with the short story Lawnmower Man. Although weirdly, as our friends at the podcast How Did This Get Made pointed out, the final product of that movie does kind of feel like a Stephen King story in a weird way. They put just enough of his tropes in there for it to feel like something he might have written.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna knock it because I love the Lawnmower Man, but that's also got two different versions of that too.
Oh, I'd imagine so. I know there's like a very long, needlessly long version of it.
Well, just a quick aside there. Yes, because the version I saw is of that movie at the theater on a military base, so it could be reason why the versions are different. Is the director's cut of the version that's on the Blu-ray, and I was like, why? Because I watched it, and I was like, why did they cut out the scenes I liked? And then I had to realize that they're in the regular version, they're cut out as special features. I was like, that's stupid. And so that's where it has me thinking that because I watched it on the military base, they may have had an earlier cut of the movie than the one that was eventually put out as the theatrical version, or the Blu-ray and DVD was just lying to everybody and saying the cut up version is theatrical, and that's not really what went theatrical. I don't know. It's always bothered me. It's always.
I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they did lie to people. There's a lot of that going around these days, and even back then. But yeah, with this movie, I feel like, well, first of all, let's like you mentioned Tim Matheson is the star of this movie. Let's tell everybody who the players, who were the artists that shed their blood, sweat, and tears for this movie.
Because you might recognize four of them. Might, depending on what decade you are.
Oh, dude. Oh, yes, dude. But some of these are Stephen King alumni. We'll get to it here. So the director of this movie is Tom McLoughlin. Tom McLoughlin, director of such unassailable classics as Date with an Angel, The Fire Next Time with Craig T. Nelson, which is like a miniseries about climate change in 1993, way ahead of its time. Mm-hmm. One Dark Night, a PG-rated zombie movie with Meg Tilly. That was his first movie. And a movie called Cyber Seduction, His Secret Life. It looks amazing. But of course, I laughed so hard when I found out the name of that movie. But of course, what he's known most for by us horror fans out there, of course, is the real greatest thing he ever put out on film, which is Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. And Mr. McLoughlin claims that he still has the Jason mask in his possession. So I'll believe him. So.
Shit, if I was the director of that, I would have kept that crap too.
Yeah. But that, of course, is another podcast episode of Conversations in Horror.
Which we have already done, so if you want to check that one out, go ahead and check that one out.
Go ahead and check that one out. The writers of this movie are actually a writing team. Got Lawrence Connor and Mark Rosenthal. Connor wrote or co-wrote, maybe, ? The Tim Burton Planet of the Apes with Mark Wahlberg. Star Trek 6 and Superman 4, Quest for Peace. Also, Jewel of the Nile, The Legend of Billie Jean,
Lots of stuff
which
I
should be
grew up
from
watching.
yeah, it should be familiar to all you purveyors of obscure '80s classics. But him and Connor, I guess, were a writing team on Apes and Quest specifically. So I guess they're basically made a career out of working very hard on very bad and or underappreciated movies. And maybe this is both. So the stars we mentioned, Tim Matheson, who is really more of a TV actor, starring such classics as Hellswarm, a Killer Bee movie that he also directed. Uh, Tails You Live, Heads You Die. Buried Alive 2.
Yep.
Impulse, which is the movie where an earthquake makes all the people of a small town turn to homicidal, sex crazed, mutilating maniacs. I hear it's great. Let's see, and of course, National Lampoon's Animal House with the late great John Belushi. That's kind of what his main claim to fame is after all these years. He's joined by his co-star playing his wife in this movie, Brooke Adams.
Well,
she of the big beautiful eyes and big beautiful smile. This is actually her second Stephen King foray. The first being, of course, The Dead Zone, which we'll get into, where she played opposite Christopher Walken. And I think the first really scary movie she did was the remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Which you see a lot of her in that movie.
Yep.
So yeah, it's so this talented group here came together to adapt a very short story, but not super short. There's enough meat on the bone for this thing to make at least a 90-minute movie. I think this is like a little bit shorter than that, maybe a little bit longer. I'm not sure.
Well, that's why I said there could be some stuff that was added or not, because you got to remember this was when I saw it was on CBS, so that's roughly 90 minutes, and I think they say it's like 97 minutes. That means they added some stuff. Who knows?
Yeah,
Who knows? It's always like that. So
yeah. Well, I'm going by the Tubi version. So this is what I'm going to. This is the text of this that we're going to be diving into. Okay. So for all you out there, if you want to go back and check us, Joe. Go check that version. Don't come at us overseas for not going after your version that you grew up with that might be way better. I doubt it, but
I do want to add in, while you were adding actors, a couple more people there. That one of the reasons why I so love this was just Robert Ressler from Vamp is one of my favorite movies he's ever done. But we just did an episode on Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge. He was in that as well. But Vamp is one of my all-time favorites that he was in. And of course, he's in one of my all-time favorite movies growing up, which was Weird Science. So who doesn't love that movie?
I do too. Yeah.
But those are the ones I mostly grew up with him in. I had seen Vamp a billion times growing up, and so I was really, really familiar because he has some of the greatest lines in that movie.
Who does he play in this movie?
This one, he's Lawson. He's the main greaser.
That guy.
Yeah, Robert Ressler. Yeah.
Now I'm trying to remember who he was in Weird Science. He was one of the bully guys.
But I know more from Vamp. But I've seen Weird Science so many times it's ridiculous. And because I was a huge Anthony Michael Hall fan growing up, so I've seen like most of his. I kind of like saw myself in his geekiness when I was a kid. So I was a big Anthony Michael Hall fan growing up. So I must have seen Weird Science and Breakfast Club a billion times. About 16 candles. I'm about to say 13 candles. 16 candles. I don't know how many times I saw those movies. And he's come a long way since being a geek in those movies.
And then this movie also has, you just reminded me, I completely forgot.
Sanderson?
Yes, who played Jay Sebastian in Blade Runner. Yeah, so you Blade Runner fans.
Yeah, so he was the last one I was going to mention. Like, whoa, let's not forget him. I know he might be small, but back then he was a character actor like Clint Howard. He like used to pop up in every damn thing. But people will recognize him from Blade Runner. Like, so, but that right there is pretty much the cast. And this is not a very big cast, to be honest with you. Every person who's kind of introduced is really characters that they're going to kill eventually.
Yeah, it's kind of sad. but the funny thing is though, as far as like main cast, spoilers, most of them survive actually till the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Because which is not the way it plays out in the story.
This is really, I've always felt that this movie tried to channel like the atmosphere of Stand By Me, with its ideal of
Yeah.
the narrator, their narrator kind of narrating the story as he looks back on his life. Uh,
Oh
and,
yeah.
and that's how I always saw this film. It was very similar like that. Not as influentially brilliant as Stand By Me, but still a really good TV movie because our main character Jim and his family are being forced to move back to Jim's hometown, which he fled a long time ago with his parents after his brother was killed. His brother, what's his brother's name again? Shit. Ah,
Wayne.
Wayne. I forgot Wayne. His brother Wayne was killed. He just happened to be there to witness it.
Yeah, so it's like the narration. That's the first thing that popped up to me is how thick this
Yeah.
narration is.
Well, I said Stand By Me. It just reminds me of that.
It just lays out everything,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of peters out and it never comes back. Which is actually something I have narration in a script that I'm writing right now, and I was tempted just to have it at the very beginning and at the very end, but then I realized, and like sometimes in the first act, I'm like, this could be effective to fill some things in that I might not want to shoot. So I started using it that way. This movie kind of does that a little bit too, but yeah, I feel like the narration in this doesn't really evoke King's text very well. Although the story is first person, so it's at least got that connective glue. The short story is told from Jim Norman, whom I will call Norm or Normie, because he is very much a everyman, a normie guy. Although Tim Matheson, those of you who don't know his work, Tim Matheson is this kind of guy. I feel like he's got an everyman small town America vibe, but he's got like jet black hair and very haunted looking saggy eyes. He's the perfect Stephen King lead character because he looks like somebody who grew up in some small town in Maine, had an abusive father, was an alcoholic, maybe. He's got some kind of trauma behind those eyes.
Yeah. But that's the reason why I like him in this film, is because he kind of embodies his character, because he had to flee his other school because he had like an anger outburst, which is kind of followed him to his new town where he tried to erase his bit of anger. So you see that you can see that in him, even though it comes out in certain scenes in the film. You still see it in the way he carries himself, and I think that's part of why Matheson did such a great job in this role.
Yeah, but I feel like this is definitely trauma horror. So those who grew up with that genre will, of course, fit right into understanding this movie for sure, because this is all about childhood trauma coming back to haunt you literally, and having to deal with that. Although I will say that in the short story, it's a little better, because in the short story, he's not just mad because he has anger issues. The reason he got kicked out of his previous school is because he is traumatized by his students from that school. He was in a really rough inner city school, and he tried to break up a fight, and he ended up getting beat down really badly by one of the students. And so he's still haunted by that. And he's also, of course, haunted by the memories of his older brother, Wayne, who got killed by some greasers. Although the way that this incident, or I will call it the incident, goes down in the movie is a little different than how it goes down in the book. And also it goes down a lot more realistically than it does in the book, interestingly enough. Now, I keep saying book just for brevity's sake, folks. Again, this short story is no more than, I think, 20 pages long. It's not a long read. You could do it in like an hour. It would take you less time to read this short story than it would to watch this movie. So
that's why I wish I had gone back and rewatched it. But I actually don't have this the novel anymore, so I can't just go back and pull it off the shelf and read it anymore. So
well, for those who want to know, the short story, sometimes they come back, occurs in the short story collection, the seminal short story collection, Night Shift by Stephen King, which actually was his first short story collection that he ever published. He published it right after the success of Carrie and Salem's Lot and The Shining. And that was all he had written up until that point. So he decided to put all the best of his short stories that he had been publishing for years. And it's a great, if you're a Stephen King fan, you got to have a copy of Night Shift in your thing, because I mean, he starts off with, his introductions to all these short story collections are bangers always. And this is what the first one he starts off with. Hi, I'm Stephen King. I wrote this, and he's like, let's talk about fear. And he goes on for this wonderful little essay about fear and why we read scary books, and it's great. So highly recommend getting Night Shift. Sometimes they come back as probably like deep down in there. It's like the 6th or 7th towards the end of it. Yeah. And it's so much darker than this movie, but we'll get into that. But yeah, also it's I think both the book and this movie kind of have the same thing where he is a teacher, but in the book he's an English teacher, not a history teacher, which I think is kind of odd. But I think that Tom McLaughlin, Connor and Rosenthal probably did that to make it more in line with the theme, I guess.
That's what I was about to say. More in line with the theme, since I saw what you did, Thomas.
Writer pretension. We won't tell anybody what I did there, but you can use your imagination.
When you're writing short stories and novels, you can just kind of do whatever you want to, because people usually don't digest them so fast. So certain things, you can get away with, not have to make everything gel together. But when you have 90 minutes of people watching it, filmmakers feel like they have to have a justification for most everything, whether the audience knows it or not. They feel like they have to have a justification for everything. So
I think they probably just didn't have the money to spend on the rights to Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men, because that figures a little bit into the classroom sequences in the book. But
well, it's funny because they don't spend much time talking about actual history, but there are a lot of scenes in the classroom in this movie.
Yeah, he does very little actual teaching in this movie, which is kind of odd, I think. But also, I want to say, like, another great thing about the short story is that Stephen King, for those of you who don't know out there, ladies and gentlemen, Stephen King started off as an English teacher. But he made almost no money, so he would also like have a second job working at a laundry place, which was the inspiration for The Mangler, and a few other things that he did. So he did whatever he could to get by. But being an English teacher all the stuff that he endured there, and the students that he met and all that, factors in to some of his best short stories where he talks about being a teacher. And like one thing, my wife is a teacher too, by the way, so I highlighted a section in it that I saw where he talks about how teachers get like as many ulcers as air traffic controllers or something like that, which I thought was really great, and she appreciated that.
Jesus.
But yeah, the students in this version kind of give him a little bit of ulcers too. Yeah. Because they're all like well, in the again, I'm sorry, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep doing this, but like in the book, they make it make more sense, where Stephen King says that he has a class at 5th period that's like a dump class where all the jocks go. And in the book, it's called Living with Literature. And it's literally one of those lit classes that jocks have to take in order to keep playing football. In this movie, it's just a generic history class that, again, the jocks have to get an A in order to keep playing football. So he gets this job, but he gets this job because it's the only job he could get, and it just so happens to be in his hometown. Yep. And like I said, the narration is thick, because he keeps telling us that, his parents, after Wayne's murder, picked him up and just left out of the trauma. And now he's back there, and he even goes to his old house, where it's like, and people just didn't want to go there. And I'm like, why? Why would people not?
You still there?
The house doesn't even figure into the story, like in the book. But like, yeah, it's just. It's weird.
He visits his house 2 times in the movie. So
yeah, I mean, it is a place that's important in the movie, but like And he does go there at the end to get the stuff, the
Yeah.
marvelous and terrible objects. But yeah, it's just there's no reason to me. There's just no reason why that house should become like the Myers house. I mean, in Halloween, it makes sense for the Myers house to be vacant and nobody wants to live there because a double murder perpetrated by a 9-year-old was committed in there. So that makes sense. Or the Freddy Krueger house, the Krueger place. That makes sense that nobody want to live there because Freddy Krueger lived there and died there. It makes sense, but nothing really awful happened in this guy's family, the house he grew up in. I don't understand why we have to make such a big deal in this.
Well, I think a lot of that probably has to do, and we don't know the details completely, but I think probably a lot of that has to deal with the fact that it was a house of the kid who was killed, and 3 other people were killed in the train tunnel that was what I guess maybe a few blocks away from the house. But yeah, we're not told why in
It's
27
definitely walking distance.
the derelict. So, but it looks cool.
Yeah. And it does look like a cool house. Yeah, yeah. And he also makes the point of saying that it was 27 years ago.
Yeah.
I never came back. What is it about this house that kept people away? We're thinking the same thing, Tim Matheson. There's no real reason. But 27 is a nice, interesting number because it just so happens that Pennywise the Clown comes back every 27 years.
Well, Stephen King has always put little things like that in the story. I think every writer does if they've been around long enough. They put things like that in their story, and they just kind of used it.
Oh yeah, they put stuff that ties to other King stuff in this movie that's not at all in the story. I mean, I think they even make reference to I don't know if they call it Midworld in this movie, but they make a reference to one of the in between dimensional spheres that Stephen King often uses. Also, now the house that they live in, which is not the same house, is like a fixer-upper that looks kind of disgusting. Actually, I'm like, why did you live here? The walls look decrepit, and then they're
poor.
The kid's room, is has one ceiling fan light attached to a yellow rope.
Yeah, because they're poor. Those type of things I really like about this film, because if it was remade today, we'd see that house decked out with all types of modern day contrivances in it, and you start thinking, well, aren't they poor? Which is why they moved back to begin with, because everybody wants to have everything look pretty. And this film, it doesn't look pretty. They are poor, and they even made sense of that when Sally and their son Scott. I think it's Scott. Scott.
Yeah, I think Scott, who by the way is not in the story.
Yeah, picks up the couch and stuff from the Goodwill, and they show how they show him as soon as he gets home after his first day of school. So these guys, these characters, are poor.
She repaints the walls.
Yeah, she repaints
in this awful salmon color, and it's so gross.
And it could be channeling exactly, Stephen King's own life in there. Him. I don't know. But back when this was made, Stephen King was highly popular, so they could have been just pulling in a lot of stuff that Stephen King himself would have said or did.
Yeah.
So that's what I thought. I don't know. I've never read anything about that. But it gives this film character, to say the least, because this location looks dramatically different from the house he grew up in, which looks different than every other house that we see or location. These locations in here look like real cities, real train tunnels, real everything. They don't look like set pieces. They're not clean. They look like they're they were lived in. And that's one of the qualities I liked about the film, is that it doesn't look like an overproduced TV movie.
Yeah. And well, and so we have to talk about how this movie parses out information about the past, because this movie is all about the past.
It is. It does.
Yes, it does. Yeah, that kind of annoyed me a little bit. In the short story, it's a lot cleaner and a lot simpler. But in this movie, he has recurring nightmares, which you do
Every
when you're
night.
when you're traumatized every night, pretty much. And that is in the book. Actually, the book opens with him waking up from a nightmare, which would have been a great way to start something. A lot of other horror movies do that. This one does not. But so the book starts off with him waking up for a recurring nightmare. He doesn't tell us exactly what it is. This movie, however, takes about 10 or 11 minutes to tell us and gets into that nightmare. And it's a nice sequence because it's like a sleepwalking thing where he just kind of he's walking around his house and then suddenly, boop, he's in his childhood house. The wallpaper is different. The walls are different. And he just kind of disconnectedly observes this incident from his childhood where he's sitting there on the front porch crying and his older brother Wayne comes in and is like, hey, what's wrong? And comforts him. And then they walk off together because he needs to put to bring back his library books that are overdue. And so he's like, I got I'm sorry, I'm going to get this wrong all the time, but in the book it's 2 cents. In the movie, I think it's 5 cents, right?
12 cents. It's
12 cents. Okay.
Yeah, it's a dime and two pennies.
I think part of the reason why that's different is, first of all, maybe the symbology of the number 12, but also there's a bit of a time difference between the book and this, because in the book it's clearly in the 50s, the flashbacks. In the movie they make it 1963, and the only reason I know that is because that's the date on Little Wayne's tombstone.
Oh, okay.
So it is set in 1963. So that to me was like, yeah, that's a bit of a stretch. I don't think there were still greasers driving around in hot rods in 1963. Beatlemania had already started happening at that point. So, no. But yeah, so it was set. The incident did happen in the early 60s. And what happened was they went to the train tunnel and to cut through because it's faster. And some greasers in their souped up hot rod come by and get into the tunnel, block them, making their car perpendicular on the tracks, which is the dumbest thing you can possibly do. But okay, so they do this, and they're like, "Hey, give us your lunch money," and they're intimidating him the way stereotypical toughs from the 50s do. And Wayne stands up and tries to, to fight them basically and defend his younger brother, which of course gets him killed because he gets stabbed by one of the older ones, the main greaser, Lawson, which is funny because their names are different in the book too, so it's gonna confuse me a little bit. They have like 3 different names in the book, and also in the book you don't even see their faces in the original flashback. They're defined by their like facial tics. Like Lawson's character has a birthmark on his chin. Another one has like a weird haircut that's like bleach blonde. So like it's these little bits on their face that define them, not their names. So I think to me, I think that's part of the fundamental flaw of John McLaughlin's adaptation of the story. And we may get that. Well, and it becomes much more clearer when they actually start showing up in his classroom. But anyway, so yeah, they killed his brother, but then somehow Lawson's red rabbit foot ignition key to the hot rod gets dropped on the floor. We know this because John McLaughlin gives us a nice little insert close up of the thing in slow motion dropping, and little Normie grabs it and runs off with it, and they can't start the car when the train comes down the train track and destroys the car with them in it, because they're idiots and apparently don't know to get out of said car and stop trying to start a car you don't have a key for and run. Except for
Mueller. Mueller is the only one that gets out.
Mueller. Yes, Mueller. And there's some ADR dialogue that tells us that. Like, Mueller, you coward!
Yeah.
And we don't see him again until the very end of the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, so all four of so like three, is it four or three? It's three. So all
Three of
three of
them.
them die in an explosion in a very nice miniature set, by the way. It's
Mhm.
obvious that it's a miniature, but it's a nice miniature. Uh, so yeah, and then he went to the cops. Little Normie went to the cop singular. And he is in the book. And that's pretty much what we see, and that's what we know. Pretty darn traumatic, if a little unbelievable, but yes, that's the whole incident and sequence of incidents, because like when things happen is also important too, um to this movie. And so that is kind of all that we are shown, and poor Tim Matheson has to watch it happen and he can't do anything about it.
Yeah,
It just happens, and he ends up back on this front porch crying, just like his younger self does.
yeah, that was a nice little transition.
Yeah,
And they have a lot of those nice
yeah, it was.
transitions in the movie. Even when he sees like the flashback, when he's watching King Kong, and then it flashes back to home movies, and then he comes back out of that.
Oh gosh, yeah. I love the King Kong thing, because this is also a Dino De Laurentiis
Yes.
movie.
Yeah. So he's like plugging King Kong the remake in there. I was like, oh, Dino. And that's another reason why I think it was also a theatrical release, like you were saying, because he's an Italian director, so of course it's going to go theatrical everywhere else except for here in the U.S. Because I'd have to look up his filmography to see how many movies he actually produced that didn't go theatrical. Because he was a big name in those big epic type of movies like that back in the day. So
Yeah, and I love how when he's watching the movie that they rented and everyone goes to sleep, he's like, "Yeah, I'll stay up to make sure to see if the monkey dies or something like that."
yeah,
Like, yeah,
I think if the monkey gets the girl, I think something like that. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, if the monkey gets the girl, I'm like, yeah, right. Like, you don't, you know.
But I do like the way that those type of transitions unfold, because sometimes what I liked about this film, especially, is that the flashbacks don't overtake the main story. Sometimes you end up having the ideal between the flashbacks and say the modern day. One will overshadow the other one, and a flashback will just be like a quick flashback. But the way they're handled in this film, the flashback sequences are integral to the characters and the story being told in the present day, and I like that aspect of this
Oh
film.
yeah, you can't not have them.
Yeah,
Although in a weird way, Stephen King's story kinda sorta does that. There's like one dream, there's mention of multiple dream sequences, and he makes references to the past, but there's not a lot of there's not a lot of psychic stuff that
mhm.
goes on in the book. I mean, I say that in both meanings of that word, because there's literally a sequence in this movie where Norm literally gets psychic powers for a hot minute and then never uses them again. It's specifically later on when the murders start happening, because so what happens is, okay, so Norm is trying to teach and is doing his darndest, although we never really see him teach anything.
Yeah,
But he gets all of a sudden one day he gets this kid named Billy, who is in the book, but he doesn't have any dialogue. But anyway, he talks to Matheson, or sorry, Normie, about history. He's like, is history really doomed to repeat itself? I'm like,
yeah,
theme of the movie. But
yeah.
anyway, and he's like, I just don't, and he's like, I don't know, maybe it can't be. He's like, and the moment Billy says, I just don't want to be, a bit of dust in the wind of history, and as soon as he said that, I knew he was dead. I knew that kid was dunzo. So he's getting on his bike. He's like one of the good kids
Yeah.
in his class, and I knew that he had less than a minute to live. So he gets on his bicycle, and out from nowhere appears the greaser's car, all fully restored and literally spewing jets of fire from the tailpipe, which is pretty rad.
It is. It
Um,
is.
yeah. And so they run Billy off the road, and he goes kersplat into the. In,
I think it's like a right off the bridge. It's just like a little ravine or something.
was that the people? What you say?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, they like it. they like to kill people along that bridge. They do it twice. But yeah, so he runs them off the bridge into a ravine, and nobody else sees the car, which is interesting. They just see poor Tim Mathis, poor Norman chasing Billy with his car, trying to get the guy to stop. So I thought they were going to make it like the greasers from hell are going to frame Normie for the murders, which doesn't really happen.
No.
I was a little disappointed because that would have been low hanging fruit, and actually it would have made sense, but it doesn't. So, but then after that murder, all of a sudden, there's a transfer student to replace Billy, a transfer student from Milton, and there he is, Johnny Lawson. He looks just like he did back in the 50s, or sorry, 1963. But that can't be him. My golly, he would be 30-something years old by now. Which, by the way, what I'm telling you right now is just a paraphrased version of what Norm is thinking in the book. In the book, and this is what I was going to get into, like the fundamental problem with adapting this material. In the movie, it is patently obvious that it's him because we saw him earlier in the first flashback. We know what Lawson looks like. We saw full shots of him in his chinos and his boots and his black leather jacket, which he wears to school in the 90s. And nobody makes fun of him for his retro fashions. I think it's kind of weird. In the book, though, Norman only thinks he recognizes him. He's not sure, but he thinks he recognizes him because of the birthmark on his chin. Like, I think I've seen that before. But he doesn't dress up like he did back in the 50s. At least there's no indication from the story that he does. So it makes more sense. But anyway, like every time they kill one of his students, another one comes and replaces them. We're transferred from Milton. And they all just happen to go in his class and terrorize him and, make the jocks do horrible things and then kill the jocks. But like I said, there is literally a hilarious sequence where Normie just gets a psychic vision of when they're killing the one good girl, Kathy. And at least that's her. What is her name in the
Kate?
Is it Kate? Okay, Kate. Because her name in the book is Kathy. But so Kate, whatever her name is, he sees her murder in his mind, and he knows where to find her. So dead zone style, he takes the cops on a manhunt to find her body, which they find hanging in a loft in a barn. Which I guess, the kids are like, hey man, she couldn't hang with us, so
yeah, they attributed it to suicide. They attribute hers to suicide, and they even later they when they have that little meeting with everyone, they kind of say that these kids are committing suicide. I was like, and Tim Matheson's Jim Norman was saying they were murdered.
How does nobody believe me?
Yeah. So, but no one saw Lawson's car mow down Billy, and Jim is the only one who knows anything about Kate's death and how to find her and where and all that type of stuff. And so there's suspicion behind after him, but it's not like anyone's like committing to doing anything about that suspicion. It's just like something that just hangs in the air as you're watching the movie from all the outsiders.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. And like in the book, it's a little more realistic because in the book he finds out about these deaths through the newspaper. Like he's not involved in the investigation. I mean, he's creeped out, and he's especially creeped out when all three of them finally show up, and one of them he's called, I think, Rodriguez or Miguel, or I think he's like Rodriguez in the book, actually talks to him and basically just comes out and says, that they're going to get him and that they've come back.
That may have been Vinny in the movie.
Yeah, I think
North
you're right.
Vinny's the second one that shows up. North is the third one.
Yeah. It's a little confusing because, like I said, the three guys are totally different in the book, and the way that they're revealed is different in the book, and it's hard to keep up with them.
I think that's
I
why we see so many classroom scenes, because it's easy to for general audiences who may not have read the book or story to see that the each one of them is coming back and being another person, a new student in his class. It's just easier, like story wise, to do that. But they kind of wrap this mystery, this investigation after North kind of shows up, so that Jim could have something to do as this story unfolds.
Yeah, yeah. Although what's funny is in the book, though, they the article about Katie's death says that eyewitnesses saw three boys run away from where her body was found. Even though they still think it was a suicide or an accident, they saw three boys running away. And this movie makes it very clear that they only can come back when they kill one of the kids.
Mm-hmm.
So for every kid they kill, one more of them can come back from hell.
Yes.
This is a good idea that works. The problem is it doesn't make any sense in the beginning. Because who the smeg was driving that car? Was the car just Christine driving itself, basically? Because that would be totally a Stephen King thing. You don't see anybody in the scene when Billy dies. None of them have appeared yet. So was the car, and how did the car materialize? Did the car have to cause a car accident and just destroy another car so that it can materialize? Did the car come from hell too?
I know. I think the sequence of events is set in motion the moment that Jim comes back home, and it's more or less coincides with the anniversary of their death.
Yes, you're right. It still doesn't make sense, though, because it makes me wonder who the heck was in the car. Because if it was Lawson, Billy has to die in order for Lawson to materialize. But Billy isn't dead until they drive him off the road. So who the heck was driving the car? Was the car driving itself? Well, I don't know. That's the problem I have.
They do set it up a little bit, because before they kill Chip, North is in the car with them as well. So North is in the car with them when they have Chip before Chip is killed.
Oh, so it really doesn't matter then if they kill them. So
I don't know if it makes them corporeal or what, or
yeah.
Think about it. When they before they kill Billy, no one else sees the car. But after Billy, everyone can see the car.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know either.
That's the problem. That is the problem with writers face whenever they're dealing with ghosts. That ghosts have no rules. Vampires have clear, established, sometimes ridiculous rules, but they work. You have werewolves. Everyone knows the rules of werewolves. You know what the rules of a zombie. Mostly, all these other monsters have rules. Even demons have rules. Ghosts, on the other hand, you're just ghosts, and they can do you don't know what they can and cannot do. It's just.
Well, it depends on if they're ghosts or demons, because the ideal that they're demons also plays up as well, especially when they can't enter the church.
That's just pretty cool. That's also not in the book. But the thing about the whole ghost demon thing, that's a Stephen King thing, because Stephen King has this weird thing where where sinners who die and go to hell, if they come back to Earth, they don't come back as regular ghosts, they come back as demons. The most famous version of this, unquestionably, is Randall Flagg in The Stand. Randall Flagg isn't just Satan in blue denim. Randall Flagg has a backstory in the book. He is a Vietnam veteran. He was in the war, and that's why in the miniseries he calls his workers his good little soldiers, because he had this whole thing where he went through the disillusionment of Vietnam that eventually led to him to becoming a demon. So it's the same thing here. The guys are demons, but they're dead people who also have a past. So I guess that's how it works in Stephen King's cosmology. Interestingly enough, though, in the book does make a distinction. It's one of the few times that Stephen King does make a distinction between the departed souls of the dead whether they were good or bad, and an actual demon. Because spoilers for that book, which I won't spoil too much because it's so good. But there is literally a demon in the Sometimes They Come Back, the story, that assumes the form of a dead person. That's not him. It's not them. In fact, King makes it very clear that it's not that person in the text. So yeah, that's what we're dealing with here. You might say it's a very nominal Catholic sort of view of things. You know how Catholics usually think, when you die, you become an angel, which is not exactly what the Bible teaches, but okay.
Well,
so
the ideal is also planted. Something like the more religious undertones are planted in the flashback that shows Wayne and the younger Jim in church. And Wayne has to explain to him that church is kind of like a symbol that will protect him. Of course, that plays much more in the third act when he sends his family to the church, and of course the Lawson and his boys can't get into the church.
Their feet literally go on fire.
And then of course the ideal of even Wayne coming back, like the Lawson gang is very similar as well, because he can't, the first time we see the Wayne spirit or demon, however you look at it, he can't come back on his own. He doesn't come back until after Mueller sacrifices himself for.
Yeah, that confused me a little bit because so Norm has his little dark night of the soul when he realizes that these guys, all they want is for him to basically reenact the whole incident at the train, at the location, at the train tunnel, which has been disused for years. The train hasn't been there for years. It's important to remember, folks. They want him to bring all the stuff, and they want him to show up there, and they want him to bring Mueller because Mueller is the one survivor and he has to be there. So they want to redo it, but this time they want to win, kind of, sort of.
They want to win. They want to escape. That's why, I always assumed that the reason why they're doing this is so that they can escape whatever the hell they were originally in, and because it's their anniversary, this is the only time they can do it. So if they can win, if they can escape and end up Jim dying there, then they will have a way back into our world. That's kind of how I've always thought about this.
Yeah, they're not very clear about that part of it. They're just very clear. They're very clear about, we want you there and we'll do whatever we can. We'll even kidnap your family to get it.
Yeah, because they won't kill Jim. They need Jim. He has to be there on the night where it all happened to reenact the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting concept, because when they tell you that, you already know as an audience member exactly what the end game is here. It's not like they have to iterate what the whole plot is or what these characters are really there for. But it is interesting that when things start to go haywire, when Mueller sacrifices himself, they were like, we have to have Lawson and his people have to say, we have to have this go the exact same way it was before. He's screwing it all up, type of mentality. Like, that's when they don't know what's going to happen because something happened that they weren't expecting. Or when Wayne shows back up after Mueller was killed.
Yeah, he goes. Yeah, that's what bothers me a little bit, because I feel like they cheat a little bit with Wayne, because like I said, Normie has a dark night of the soul. He goes to his brother's grave and begs him, and it's implied he's begging God too, to help him with this whole thing. And a portal opens. A really cool, kind of slit in reality forms that this bright white light comes through. It almost reminds me of the divine portals you see in Orthodox art. And it's pretty cool. But he's there. Normie can see the outline of his brother in it, but then he doesn't come out.
He can't come out.
And wait, what? Why'd you bother to show us that? And then later on, when of course Mueller gets himself killed, then slit in reality, bright white light, then comes his brother. Yeah. Because now the sacrifice has been made, so now the exchange happens. So now but he's still a kid.
He's still a kid. He doesn't realize like time has passed. or
No.
anything. It's kind of like he died, and then when he comes back, he doesn't realize time has come back, which I thought was an interesting concept. They could have easily
Yeah.
played that completely different. Like I just came back from heaven to help you in your need right now. But it's very interesting that after Wayne comes back and helps his little brother, he asks him all these type of questions as if he was still a little kid, and I thought that was very interesting. Um,
Yeah.
I
And
thought
of course, he helps him do this whole thing, and they end up, of course, throwing. I think he throws the Rocky Rabbits thing away again, so
as
that
a distraction.
they still can't start the car.
No, it's funny because they get the rabbit's feet keys, they get back into the car, but it's still too late, which I still find hilarious. It's still too late. But that was, until I rewatched it, the sequence of events had to replay in my head, because I never really looked at the movie critically until I rewatched it. But of course, he throws the keys away so he can get his own family out of the car. And Lawson and his group are just trying to not have a repeat of the last time this happened, which is they go after the keys. All of them go after the keys, and they try to get back in the car to get the car off the tracks, and yet they are still too late, which I find hilarious now. Uh,
It's so silly because ugh, like why? And of course, the ghost train shows up
Goes to
because of course the ghost train would come and take them back to hell, I
yeah,
guess. And but although I will say, I was fully expecting their faces when they do quote the face thing. I was fully expecting their faces to be demon faces, but no, they have these cool zombie
yeah,
faces, which I think is pretty. I think that's where your R rating comes from.
yeah.
Is the gory faces, and one of them is a really and he's got like an eyeball kind of hanging out. But the best reveal of that happens way later when they're killing poor jock kid Chip, who gets a case of conscience and tells Normie what's going on with these guys and
Mhm.
that they're trying to get him to go along with them on their murder plan. And then they decide to murder Chip, which does happen in the book. I will say that part they got that, they nailed that.
Yeah.
However, the whole train thing doesn't make any sense. And in the book, it's there is a train. A train figures into it because the incident in question happens in this way. They go. It's an overpass. It's not a tunnel. So they got the greasers come out of the trestles. They've been hanging in the shadows of the trestles. Actually, the way King describes it, he describes it like shadows come alive and there they are. It's like the shadows are them before they're even dead. Um, and that's when all that happens and the kid gets killed. But he runs and they run. And he has no and the police he tries to tell the police, the cop guy tries to find them and they never catch the kids. Never caught him. And so he has no idea what happened to them until way later when this ghostly stuff starts happening. Because he doesn't know that they're dead in the beginning of the story. He has no idea. He just thinks it's weird that these kids are showing up who look just like the three kids who killed his brother. Weird. And then he does some digging, calls the cop, Officer Lee or whatever his name is in the movie.
I can't remember, but I think that might be it. I
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
write down his name per se, the cop's name.
I did, but it's buried deep in my notes. He's a fun character because in the movie he lives in an old folks' home,
Yeah.
and he's like telling the guy in the wheelchair, "Hey, this is a residential." So he's a fun character. He's not in an old folks' home in the movie. I'm sorry, in the book, but so that's how he finds out in both versions that the that they're dead, that what's really going on. In the book, he finds out that they died 6 months after the incident in a car wreck because cops were chasing them.
Hmm.
So it makes a whole lot more sense in the book. It feels more real. I guess McLaughlin just wanted to use a miniature train to kill them,
Well,
but he ends up making them look way stupider.
well, no, well. I think it makes it works much better for the film ideal because you have a climax, you have a location for the climax for all that to happen. I don't remember the story, so I don't remember how it ended. But but as this film as you're watching this film as an audience member, you already get a sense of how and where the film's going to end because you're seeing flashbacks to the original incident.
Oh yeah. You totally do. But I would say in some movies this isn't a bug, but I think it's a feature. But I think in this movie it kind of is a bug because like the moment they started showing up in his class, I knew exactly where this was going to end up.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in the story, where it ends up in classical King fashion makes you go, "What the huh?"
Yeah.
Because I mean, like I said, I didn't want to spoil it too much, but I'm going to spoil this just to whet y'all's appetite out there. So in the movie, the climax happens as it's in a very circular thing. It's got to happen
Very circular.
it's got to happen in the train track. In the book, the climax is in his classroom. Because they still want him to come back for basically reenact the events, but they do it in his classroom, and he takes a little record of the sound of a train track. So he plays it over the loudspeakers of the school, so it sounds like there's a train running over the overpass like it was originally. So they could hear the train, but Normie basically has set a trap for them. He basically does like a whole he rents a book from the library called Raising Demons, and he gets super desperate by the end of the book because spoilers, in the book they kill his wife. She dies. It's very sudden and shocking. He doesn't have a son in the book. He always wanted a son, but he never got it, and now he never is gonna get one. But he has this little league baseball cap that he used to wear. So he takes the sweatband from it. He was hoping that his son would wear it. He takes the sweatband from it. He takes the library thing, and and then he slits a cat's throat to perform this blood ritual to basically summon a demon to take care of the greasers. And it's wild what happens.
I think that would be a little bit crazy for a made-for-TV movie. Where
it would be crazy, but that's what makes the story interesting. That's what makes it all work. In my opinion,
I don't think that would work for a made-for-TV Stephen King thing, though, dude.
Well, actually, I think of it is like it's very. It kind of has vibes of like Drag Me to Hell in a weird way, in the sense that it all hinges on this ritual that he has to perform. But even his solution to the problem comes back to bite him, because the title, Sometimes They Come Back, doesn't really have to do with the greasers. It has to do with the thing that he summoned in order to take care of that problem. So it's very fascinating. And I feel like it still could work in this form, maybe not as a feature, maybe as part of an anthology. Because it has kind of an EC Comics sort of vibe to it, but also like this movie, it sets it up for a sequel. Like weirdly, it has the same kind of the nightmare isn't over vibe that the story does. Because like as he's about to shove the greasers away, he's like, "It's all right, we'll get you next time." And he's like, "There won't be a next time," but of course we all know, folks, there's gonna be a next time. Because there's 3 of these movies.
Yeah, they're loose adaptations like this one is. But I think this one really was channeling the Stand By Me vibe and not so much trying to be a horror movie. Plus, to be honest with you, I would definitely want to see the difference between the original broadcast version and the version I've seen, because I guarantee you, I hazard to say that some of the gruesomeness is not in the TV version.
Yeah, probably not, because like we didn't mention, I don't think we really fully mentioned there, the way they killed Chip is they get him in the car, they do the face, which is they show their real zombie faces. Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, I think it was funny how they talk about it. It's like, "Hey, let's do the face." He's like, "Oh, come on, that's kid stuff." They're acting like they've done this a million times, which makes me wonder, have they been around in this town? Because we get the impression from this movie that this is the first time that they have come back.
Yeah.
because they have come back. But the way they're talking, it doesn't seem like this is the first time. It seems like they've done it before. It
It's whatever they used to do
almost
in Milford, the cemetery. It's
made
whatever
me
they do.
think of the ghosts in
Beetlejuice.
or in hell. I don't know. Maybe that's their job in hell. They scare the fellow damned. I guess I don't know. Maybe that's why they want to get out of hell. They're sick of doing the face to the damned. I don't know. But like it reminded me of 2000 Maniacs in a way, because 2000 Maniacs, the ghosts in that just also have an event that they have to
Recreate.
do. You know, they have the centennial. Yeah, they have the centennial, but also they go about it as if they've been doing it for forever. But really, it's the first time. You know, it's a weird ghost thing, I guess. But you know, it also made me think of a much better version of this. Like to me, I could never get behind the idea of making these guys scary, except for when they have the zombie faces. I just wasn't scared at all of these greasers. But you can do that in a way that's kind of terrifying. You can do it like John McTiernan did in Nomads with Pierce Brosnan. His first feature film was a horror movie. The guy who did Die Hard started off in horror. And in his first movie, Pierce Brosnan is an anthropologist who discovers these weird people who just wander around, and they're all like dressed up like punks, but they wander around randomly killing people and they don't speak. And the way McTiernan's atmospherics work in that movie so well, it makes them terrifying, which is especially funny because one of them is played by a pop star named Adam Ant. Google him. Yeah, he's not that creepy, but by gum, McTiernan makes it work. And I feel like if John McLaughlin had been a little bit more talented as John McTiernan, he probably could have done that with this. Yeah, so that's one of my problems with this movie. Yeah. I'm sorry, folks. I'm just scrolling through here thinking about what else I could talk about this thing.
Well,
it's
go
it
ahead.
has a very I'm sorry, I was gonna say I'm looking at we talked earlier about the coming back of the brother, which also in a way happens in the story in a very dark, disturbing way in the story. But in this way, it happens in a very tearful, the ending of Ghost with Patrick Swayze. Very, you know, honestly, very like Catholic Christian sort of way. But it's very kind of maudlin. And the way they keep saying, you know, together forever and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, normally I kind of like that stuff, but I feel like it wasn't earned in this movie. Because like, you know, the emotion that's not earned is called sentimentality. And I feel like the ending to this is very sentimental and ends kind of abruptly too. As soon as he goes to heaven, bam, it's done. Totally donezo. It's just like credits. And I felt like, okay. Yeah, I just
that kind of happens in a lot of the movies, actually.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're right. And you know what? They pulled that same crap for the Shining miniseries.
Oh, did they?
I hated the Shining miniseries. They did the same daggum thing. You know, they had Jack Torrance's ghost come back during his son's graduation, and like watch him. And I'm like, come on, man.
I need to rewatch that because I do not remember that.
It totally happens, and they give it a whole like, you know, they even give them a little catchphrase like this movie. Except in that movie, in that miniseries, it's kissing. That's what I've been missing, and it makes zero sense, and it makes a little bit more sense if you watch the movie. But yeah, it's so bad. So with all apologies to Mick Garris, and if you're out there, Mick, we love you. But yeah, it's the same kind of schmaltziness that sometimes gets rubbed in. I think part of that is the reason why is because they watch movies like Stand By Me and they read stories like that and see how Rob Reiner, God rest him, did that well. And they think, I can do that.
Yeah.
But it's hard to do that. It's hard. So, yeah. But like I said, this movie did get 2 sequels. It totally got 2 sequels. But you know what, Kevin?
What?
So the first one was called Sometimes They Come Back Again.
Yep.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think it starred Hilary Swank.
Did that one? I don't remember actually.
I thought I read that on IMDb, and I'm like, I do actually vaguely remember trailers
It
for
does. It
that.
does. I just
Yeah.
remember it. I just remember it starring Alexis Arquette.
Oh, the other Arquette
Yeah,
sister.
before they changed their name.
Oh, nice. So
Yeah.
yeah, they got that. So, and that movie, from what I understand, is pretty much just this movie all over again. I haven't actually seen it. Have you seen the second one?
I've seen them both, but I don't remember it. I don't I have a VHS copy of the second one. Since I have not been able to get that one on DVD. I have the third one on DVD. Because I had not seen that one when I found it on DVD. I had seen the first two when they originally came out. I had not seen the third one. So I got the third one on DVD and I was like, huh.
And
So
you
that
never watched
made
it.
that. And I've never watched it again. Uh, I will probably get around to it one day during, on our program as we're doing these Stephen King yearly events. We might get around to it one day because, maybe not because we'll never run out of Stephen King films to talk about, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, and as far as like the franchisation of Stephen King, it's so bizarre how like this and The Mangler seem to have gotten the most sequels.
And those Children of the Corn got the most, dude.
Oh, and I forgot. Yes, you're right. I forgot about that. Children of the freaking Corn, because they're
Fire,
still like the
and
Children of the Corn movies.
Firestarter has three now. Carrie has four. That was the other one. Carrie has four. So, um, so
Yeah,
yeah.
but they're not. But those aren't continuous sequels. There was a remake, a sequel to the remake, and then
Oh
the
no, there was
miniseries.
for Carrie. There's original, and then they did a TV version. Then they did a sequel to the original version, and then
Right.
they did yet another remake that went theatrical. Uh,
Right. Right. Well, I'm talking here, like The Mangler, I'm talking a bunch of sequels to this movie that could have happened. They made two. They made, of course, the inevitable sequel slash remake. That's Once Upon a Time. I'm sorry. That's Sometimes They Come Back Again.
uh,
And then the third ones that I really want to see because it looks so ridiculous. Sometimes They Come Back for More,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is set in the ice. But Kevin, I'm going to beta test a new bit for this show.
Yes, you were telling me you wanted to go ahead.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is our new beta test bit for this show that I like to call the franchise, and it imagines what a horror movie that didn't get a franchise, that was robbed of a franchise, or like this one, the franchise was taken from us too soon. They only had three movies. Although because I feel like the bare minimum for a franchise in horror these days is four. I feel like bare minimum is four. Because even Warlock got four movies. You
Warlock
know,
got three.
Mm, you might be right about that, actually, now that I think about it. Well, Leprechaun got five. Friggin'
I got
Leprechaun.
6, 7.
Seven. There you go. Leprechaun got friggin' seven. If friggin' Leprechaun can get seven, well, ladies and gentlemen, I think Sometimes They Come Back can get 10. I got 10 more sequels
Okay.
to Sometimes They Come Back. So I'm going to pitch these right here. Hollywood, if you're listening, if any studio executives are listening, I'm going to pitch you right now some free-ish. I mean, all this materials copyright 2026 by Broken Lighthouse Pictures Productions. So technically, you'd have to negotiate with us for them. But anyway, here they come. I got 10. So really, if all these got made, then there would be 13 Sometimes They Come Back movies.
Oh my god.
You imagine being in that timeline. Imagine you could be in this timeline where Sometimes They Come Back for More is followed by number one. Sometimes They Come Back for the hell of it. This movie, of course, would have no connection to the main characters or the bullies whatsoever. They're literally just random thrill killer ghosts. And maybe they actually look like demons this time. So that would be Sometimes They Come Back for the hell of it. It's random, just like the title. The next one would be Sometimes They Come Back for Christmas, because every horror franchise has to have a Christmas story. So in this one, the Greasers come back to kill somebody who wronged them on Christmas, or a new set of greaser ghosts, let's put it that way. They always got to be greasers because that's the thing. That's the thing that holds the franchise together. So, and of course, Christmas followed up by Sometimes They Come Back for Seconds. And that's our Thanksgiving one. where the ghosts come back and assault a family on Thanksgiving. That'd be your home invasion version. That could work. Next up, you got Sometimes They Come Back to the Hood. Greasers versus Gangstas. That writes itself.
That does
If
right.
Leprechaun can go back to the if Leprechaun can go to the hood twice, Sometimes They Come Back, Greasers can at least go once to the hood. So yeah, that'd be the fourth one. The fifth one I'm thinking of is Sometimes They Come Back for You, which would be the Netflix Choose Your Own Adventure version of this movie, where you get the
footage, dude. That has to be found.
Oh, there you go. It'd be found footage. That's how you work it. So Sometimes They Come Back for You. And then next, of course, in the franchise would be Sometimes They Come Back to the Moon, because every franchise eventually goes to space, right?
They go to space. You're right. Okay, keep going.
Demon Greasers on the Moon, people. It writes itself.
Oh my
God. I got more. Sometimes They Come Back to the Future. Yes. They now travel through time to torment a person who wasn't even born in the 50s. Or go back in time to prevent. They go back in time to prevent Wayne from even being born. Oh my God. That's a cool idea. And then next we got Sometimes They Come Back with a Vengeance.
That would be fun.
This would be the inevitable action version of the franchise, where the Greasers are actually the good guys this time, and they come back to revenge themselves on a rockabilly kung fu master. And it would star Scott Speedman, Mark Dacascos, and Eric Roberts as the bad guy.
Okay.
And finally, the absolute bottom of the barrel. I actually got two of these, so this isn't even the bottom of the barrel. This is the almost bottom of the barrel. I really wrestled with this title, Kevin, because I wasn't sure I wanted to include this, but when I did, I had a very good laugh. So, Lord Jesus, I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. But here it is.
Okay.
Sometimes They Come, which, of course, is the inevitable porn remake.
Well, if you have that many sequels, there has to be a porn one.
And then, of course, finally, the number 10, the inevitable legacy sequel remake, Sometimes They Always Come Back, which is very grammatically problematic.
Sometimes They Always Come Back. Oh, my God, dude. We've got to do this for future ones. You've got to do this one. This is freaking hilarious. Dude, I want to go out there right now and write 2 or 3 of these. Okay.
There you go.
Like, I want the studio to hire me for a sequel to this, and I'm gonna give them your ideas, dude. We got the next 10 for you. We're gonna put one out each year. Sci-Fi Channel, Sci-Fi. If you're listening, buddy, let's do this. I will get my people with your people, and we will make you 5 sequels for this, one every year. You know, and if you want to have the holiday ones, you can put 2 out in that year. Because holy shit, I would have too much fun. I've always, as a filmmaker, I was always wanted to be like a working filmmaker. I have always wanted to be that guy, and I know there's not that many that guys out there that want to make at least one sequel out of every major franchise out there. Like Lance Henriksen has probably starred in at least one sequel out of every franchise in history. I want to be that guy who directs one sequel out of everyone.
Oh, wait, Kevin, which one of these movies would we put Lance Henriksen in, though? Where would he fit?
What was the first one? Shit.
The first one was Sometimes They Come Back for the Hell of It.
That one. Or I might get Bruce Campbell to come in for that one, you know?
Yeah.
Dude, I would have way too much fun. This would be like Sharknado 10. We'd be having so much fun making these fucking movies that we have stars coming in wanting to be in them.
Yeah. We got to have Ice Cube show up for Sometimes They Come Back to the Hood.
And that one would be meta because, man, I was just here and I saw some damn leprechauns and shit.
It's the same hood.
Dude, you have no idea. As you were saying these, I was rolling in my head. Dude, you could do every one of these fucking movies as a sequel in this day and age and probably make some money off of some of them. Oh my God, I got a headache. I'm laughing so hard right now. Um, dude, yeah.
Uh,
Oh man, if anyone wanted to do fan films of this shit, and I've never heard of anyone doing a fan film, but sometimes they come back, your ideas would be like at the top, right? The top. So you have got
well,
to continue doing this whenever we do some ridiculous franchise.
all right. Well, I think we've done a very good beta test of this bit. I think we'll work on that for future episodes. But Kevin, just because we successfully beta tested this bit doesn't mean that I have to neglect
Our favorite.
our time tested and approved bits. I'm not gonna not do a Schwarzenegger alternator.
All right.
That would be heresy of me not to do that.
It would be. It would be.
So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. I have a Schwarzenegger alternator for what if Norman had been a little more, he put a little bit more finesse when he's finally sending those greasers back to hell on the A train to hell. What if he had a little kill lines in it? I don't know if they're going to be nearly as good as the titles for the maybe sequels to this franchise. But here they go, ladies and gentlemen. Our Schwarzenegger alternators for the kill line. Here we go. Hey, Lawson, the 1950s called. They want your hair back. You better give it to them now. And then the train crashes. It helps you if you remember the train crashes and just punctuate that at the end of it. Yeah. Number 2. Your car stuck again, Lawson? Maybe next time, drive a Toyota.
That
I should have said drive a Toyota. There you go. It makes more sense that way. Number 3. You killed my brother. Big mistake. Even bigger one, parking on a railroad track. I mean, who does that, really? It's so stupid.
Okay, so I'm gonna add something to the what you just said because as you said it, the only thing I could hear coming out of your mouth was not Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was Bronson and Pinchot's Serge from Beverly Hills Cop. Oh my God! Sorry, you had me in a funny mood all of a sudden after the sequel title. So now I got nothing for you. You just had me laughing now.
So
Oh,
number 4, last but not least, our last alternator is you better catch your train, Lawson. Satan doesn't like it when his bitches are late.
oh my God! Oh,
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
you have definitely hit the top out of making my ass laugh and giving me a headache while laughing on this episode, dude. And that's not what we should be doing on Sometimes They Come Back.
No, that's exactly what we should be doing.
Oh, shit. All right. So is there anything else you want to add to this conversation? Because I think you ended it pretty goddamn well.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna rest on my laurels, Kevin.
No, dude, that was perfect. That was perfect. So with that, I do want to thank you for joining me on this conversation in which we discussed Stephen King. Sometimes They Come Back. For everyone who's listening, what we love to do is we love to rate the movies between 1 and 5, 1 being poor, 5 being amazing, based on an object, quote, or saying in the film. What is your rating and what object, quote, or saying would you like to attribute to that rating, Mr. Thomas?
Well, there's so many marvelous and terrible objects in this movie. There really are. Because like this whole movie like ends up being about objects and stuff from the past. And it's so, I mean, gosh, you could do the car that spews flames, and I could do like the greaser jackets. I could do like the switchblades. Oh my gosh, these guys use their switchblades so much. I mean, they literally they dismember a jock with their switchblades, which is not something those tiny knives are designed to do. But instead, I think I'm gonna go with the one thing that, technically speaking, Mister. I'm gonna go with the rabbit's foot key, which is really the biggest murder weapon that kills the most people in this movie. Because if you think about it, Norm little kid Norm, he takes which by the way, again, does not happen in the book. He takes this after they kill his brother, he just gets revenge on them basically and grabs this key so they can't start their car and get killed by the train. So little Norm is a murderer.
Without realizing it for years, too.
Yes, he is a freaking murderer. I thought for sure that would come up in the dialogue where he basically realizes, oh crap, I kind of deserve this. But no, he never does. So, yeah. So anyway, yeah. So I'm going to take that rabbit foot key, which by the way, I did have a rabbit foot. Did you ever have a lucky rabbit's foot growing up?
Yes.
I had one my mom gave me, and I hated it because it was weird because I could feel the bones of the rabbit's foot underneath the fur, and that always made me be like, ew, I don't like the way this feels. This is kind of gross.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I don't know why we dismember rabbits to make these lucky totems, which apparently for the greasers are not lucky at all. So
yeah.
What did you say?
No. I was about to say, because I'm, kind of an environmentalist at heart. I don't like to buy anything like that anymore. Like the people who sell the jaws of sharks, they're just killing these animals for the shit like that to give to tourists and shit. I hate that.
Yeah. So ladies and gentlemen, if somebody tries to sell you a lucky rabbit's foot, don't do it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take 2 red lucky rabbit's foot keys out of 5. Okay. 2 out of 5. Because I'm sorry, to me, it's just average. It's an average movie. It's not bad. It's not good. I mean, it's good in parts, but overall, it's just very mid. Especially when you compare it to the really successful Stephen King adaptations. It doesn't really crack that A tier, as the kids say these days when they're using your brackets. It doesn't really. It barely cracks the B tier for me. So I'm gonna give it just 2.
Which is formidable. I mean, like I said, there's this film in this day and age would probably get a 2. But like I said before, I grew up watching this movie. And I remembered it being just the same as it was the last time I had seen it. If I had seen it now, I would probably be exactly where you are. And as everyone who has listened to me on this program has realized, that because I grew up with a lot of these films when they originally came out, my childhood memory, like the childhood memories in this film, always make things look a little bit better. It's either gonna be it makes everything look a little bit better, or I realize, why the fuck did I like this when I was a kid? I am the former for this one. I still really enjoyed this film, mostly because of the cast. I really do still love Brooke Adams and Tim Matheson in this. It's got this weird Stand By Me charm for me. It just doesn't have the polish and the oomph that Stand By Me has with their cast. The cast is fucking phenomenal. The only thing in this movie that bothers me is that kid, his kid Scott. Like, I after you told me he's not in the book, I was like, dude, they should have just cut that motherfucker out, because that kid just annoys me.
Yeah.
So I am going to lower my rating from what I would have if we hadn't had this conversation, because that kid annoys me. The all get out. And so I'm only going to give it a 3 a zombified greasers, because I always laugh at the time when they break into their house and Robert Russler's Lawson's a zombie. He's the only one that's a zombie in that sequence. His makeup looks great, but it's like, why the fuck is he like that? Like, he just does it just for the fuck of it.
Just for the jump scare, for that good jump scare.
It's literally there for the jump scares. And so that has never sat well with me. And so I'm gonna stick with a 3, because I can rewatch this one. It's kind of like Buried Alive with me. I can rewatch Buried Alive 1 and 2. They're stupid, but they're fun. I think it was you and I who talked about Trilogy of Terror. Yeah, I watched the whole movie because the last one's so goddamn good to me. But I'll sit through the rest of them. They're okay. They're okay. I've seen them a billion times because I love the third story. So that's where this movie, and they're made for TV. So I forgive made for TV movies a little bit more than I probably should. Let me rephrase that. I probably forgive these made for TV movies a little bit more than I should. And if you're watching this now, you probably didn't even know it was made for TV, which means it's like, what? this shit here, it's kind of mundane, pretty much. Yeah, so that's what I give this film. I'm sure that after I boggle the mind with the sequels that we wish we had for this, I will look upon the original even greater. But I do want to thank you all for listening to us have this conversation about Sometimes They Come Back. Please make sure to check out all the other great episodes we've done previously on Stephen King films. We have done a lot, but there are still plenty to come to. So we do hope that you like, follow, share, subscribe, do that thing you do with your favorite podcast, your favorite podcast app, Spotify, or YouTube, so you never miss an episode. We also have another podcast, Conversations in Hammer Studio Horrors, which is every first and third Friday at 8 a.m. That one focuses on the Hammer Studio films from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So if you are a classic horror film lover, you will enjoy that podcast as well. So with that, I want to thank you for joining us, and we will see you on the next episode.
Hi, I'm Stephen King.
Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers, executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.